And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are talking the Monaco Grand Prix and the slightly controversial forced pit stop dilemma that many people are saying, oh, it just didn't work. It just didn't work. We'd like to open the floor and explain to you, people with an open mind, why it actually probably did. Mostly. So this was last year. Verstappen labels a boring Monaco Grand Prix procession not racing. Now the interesting thing was when you look at the date, this was from the 26th of May 2024. Verstappen drove a non-eventful race in Monaco as he started and finished in 6th place during a processional race for the field. Now he's basically said it's not racing. As we all know, overtaking is very much a challenge, slightly impossible at the Monaco Grand Prix. It has been done before, and the other issue is, which we cannot ignore, is the hybrid system, along with these cars, are too big for Monaco. I mean, the cars were too big for Monaco anyway, but at least in the 90s, early 2000s, for example, before the car started getting big and ridiculous, there was a chance. There was hope. And Verstappen said after the red flag, our strategy was a bit ruined because then we had to put the medium to the end, and everyone had a free pit stop. And as you know, the mandatory Monaco pit stop, and then drive as slow as you can. And that was lamented this year as drive as slow as you can, because Lando Norris, once Verstappen got out of the way, he was leading, but he had to have his final pit stop of, second pit stop. Lando just ruined the fastest lap. Which was kind of depressing, really. And this is from The Independent in relation to last year's Monaco Grand Prix 2024. Ignore that, that's MG. So, this is going to be depressing. Never in the sport's 74-year history have the top 10 from the start finished the race in the same order after a first lap red flag meant all the cars could change tyres and did not need to pit again. Wow. So something needs to be done to Monaco. That was the cries in 2024. And then the FIA did do something. Whether you agree with it or not is by the by at the moment. It's now in the history books. They said they forced you to do 2 pit stops. Well, what they really forced you to do was use 3 sets of tyres, 2 different compounds as usual, simply because to try and make the Monaco Grand Prix more interesting. And to be fair, did it make it more interesting? Absolutely it did. However, understandably, people still weren't happy. One of those people were Max Verstappen. He said the mandatory 2 pit stop rules returned F1 Monaco Grand Prix into almost Mario Kart and reckoned the experiment hasn't worked. What did Verstappen say? Well, he said, of course I get it, but I don't think it has worked. That's what he told Sky. He said, you can't race it anyway, so it doesn't matter what you do. 1 stop, 10 stops, even at the end, I was in the lead, but my tyres were completely gone, and you still can't pass. I think nowadays with an F1 car, you can just pass a Formula 2 car around here. We were always doing Mario Kart, then we have to install bits on the car. Maybe you can throw bananas around, yeah, I don't know, slippery surface, ha ha ha. Ooh. And so Williams also, the boss, apologised for causing Mercedes woes in the F1 Monaco Grand Prix. What are we talking about? Well, this is something that the Racing Bulls also did. Was James Vowles told Carlos Sainz to hold everyone up to allow Alex Albon to, within about 5 or 6 laps, to have a pit stop ahead of everyone. And then Alex Albon came out ahead of Carlos Sainz and maintained his points position. Then they swapped, and the same was done to Carlos Sainz, where Alex Albon held everyone up. Obviously, this greatly upset George Russell. We'll get into that in a bit. And then they had the pit stop gap. Therefore, Williams scoring 2 points. The same happened to VCarb, or Racing Bulls, where Liam Lawson, to be fair, he actually qualified decently, held everyone up, so a certain Isaac Hadjar could then get the points, score the points, and do very well indeed. This was kind of predicted before. There we go, how Racing Bulls gamed the system in Derry Monaco Grand Prix Sun. But let's talk about Carlos Sainz and Albon backed up the Mercedes car so the Williams pair could pit and stay in front as Monaco's 2-stop mixes approach. And Toto Wolff reached in his pocket during this post-race briefing and pulled out his phone to read a text exchange that he and Williams' counterpart during the Monaco Grand Prix. The message showed Williams' team principal James Vowles apologising to Toto Wolff. I don't want to do it, but I have to. I hope you understand. Has James Vowles become a Bond villain justifying his naughtiness? I don't think so. What I would like to say is that this made it interesting. I'm not saying it made it good, but it made it interesting. You wanted to watch what was going on. So at least the first half of the Monaco Grand Prix, there was intrigue for the first time in ages, outside any wet weather or anything like that. And here we go. This is from Planet F1. The all-new Monaco Grand Prix two-stop rule might not have spiced things up at the front, but it certainly shook things up in the midfield. The first team to truly take advantage of the new quirks and their clever strategy paid off. That was the Racing Bulls. And just as we said, Isaac Hadjar finished a fantastic 6th after a strong qualifying, while Liam Lawson scored his first points of the year. Go Liam! And reached Q3 for the first time. But Isaac Hadjar did very well thanks to his teammate Liam Lawson. Now, one person that wasn't happy was George Russell. He put screw it with the Monaco system was flawed. He lashed out at the rules introduced for the Monaco Grand Prix, which he branded flawed after finishing 11th in the Principality. He said screw it. He was behind Alexander Albon, and then he just decided to straight line Mario Kart the chicane. I don't know if I've got it here. There we go. Look, there's George Russell. If you can see there, straight line in the chicane. There's Alexander Albon. And then he got a drive-through penalty, and then rather than a 10-second one, because the stewards can, and because it was so blatant, they were like, we can't, because he's going to make up 10 seconds. So we got a drive-through penalty. George got told, but we'll delay it as long as we can. And he said, to be honest, I prefer not to speak. A disastrous weekend for Mercedes, absolutely disastrous. But as we know, Lando Norris secured the fastest lap of the day, which makes it even more ridiculous considering how much everyone was holding back at the Monaco Grand Prix. Now, why, as I said, we think, and I think, I'm going to reiterate, why the pit stops work. It created intrigue for the first time after the start. You were interested because of the 2 stops. What's going to happen? What team is going to do what? Now, anyone that said, oh, this is just pure manipulation, they're trying to manipulate something. Jensen Button on Sky came out with a very, very good point, saying, well, they've already manipulated the race by making you use 2 different compounds during the race, so how is this different? It really isn't. If you remember the forced pit stops in Qatar a couple of years ago, I think, 2023, because of the way the tyres were, not to make it more exciting, that was intrigue, that was something to talk about. And there we go, there's Williams confirming their P9 and P10 in the race after their holding up. And Isaac Hadjar, though, this is really awkward for Red Bull, isn't it? Isaac Hadjar, the man, now has more points than Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson combined. Oh dear. So moving on, home podium for Charles Leclerc. Well done. I don't think he could have done anything more out of that whatsoever. A P2, P5 for Ferrari. I think it probably could have been a P4 had the Ferrari's engineer, well, Lewis's engineer, actually been awake. But there we go. This is the team standing. So McLaren dominating on 319. Mercedes in second on 147. Red Bull on 143. Ferrari on 142. I mean, look at that. Does that not look tasty going into Spain? Those teams separated by a handful of points. Then you got Williams in 5th, doing absolutely amazing. Hassan 26, Racing Bulls up 22, beating Aston Martin on 14. Kick Sauber last, sadly, and Alpine just on 7. This is the Drivers' Championship, and it's closed up, hasn't it? Piastri, Norris 161, 158, and then Verstappen on 136. Red Bull has said if we can be within 25 points at the Spanish Grand Prix, we've got a chance. Verstappen is exactly on 25 points, and George Russell on 99 in 4th, Leclerc on 79, Hamilton on 63, and Kimi Antonelli on 48, Albon on 42, Ocon on 20. That's your top 10. Isaac Hadjar on 10. Look, this is the second. The V Carb is doing better than the other 2 drivers that have been in the Red Bull team. That's kind of disastrous, isn't it? So we think the pit stops did work. Why? It made it more interesting than last year. Hopefully they do something similar again. There has been a suggestion that maybe they should mandate when the first pit stop should happen in the first half of the race, for example. Maybe. But still, it was more interesting than last year. And I can't take it away from that. They tried something, so fair play to them. If you've made it to the end, please give us a subscribe. That would be absolutely amazing. If you're already subscribed, hit that like button. And we'll speak to you soon. Stay safe.